Hello, I am going to cover the immune system part 3. Today we're going to discuss section 7.4, which distinguishes between passive and active immunity, and I'm going to spend a bit of time discussing vaccines. So, what are vaccines? You've all had them before, you take them regularly for the flu, and the world is eagerly anticipating a vaccine for the coronavirus to help prevent COVID 19. So, what vaccines actually are components of whatever pathogen we're trying to fight. So, for example, when you take a flu vaccine, inside of the shot are little parts of the flu virus that are predicted to exist that year. And so, what this does is that these little parts have the antigen in them. So, remember that antigen is the protein or carbohydrate that your body senses as foreign and starts mounting an immune response against and makes B cells with the B cell receptor to match that antigen and then makes antibodies to fight it. So if you get injected with a vaccine that has antigens for a particular pathogen, then your body makes memory cells and antibodies against that pathogen. But the vaccine can't get you sick because it's only parts of the virus or parts of the bacteria. But it has triggered that primary immune response in your body. So that way, when you're actually exposed to the virus or the bacteria, your body already has memory cells, already has antibodies, and can more quickly fight that pathogen, and you don't even feel sick. And so the reason that vaccines are under this category of active versus passive is because vaccines trigger or activate your immune system. So they're part of active immunity. So your vaccine provides immunity because once you've had the vaccine, you have antibodies and memory cells against that pathogen. So the vaccine isn't medicine, it isn't anything like that. It's actual parts of the pathogen you're trying to fight. And so this is what I just said. The vaccine contains parts of the pathogen, whether it be a bacteria or a virus, that contain the antigen, because the antigen is the component that triggers your immune response. Why would this be beneficial in keeping you healthy? Because it triggers the primary immune response. It makes antibodies against that pathogen. It makes memory cells. So then when you're really exposed to, let's say, the flu of that year, your body has already all the components to fight it without getting you sick. Vaccines activate your adaptive immune response. And here's a reminder. So if you have the vaccine, when you're really exposed to the antigen, which are those little yellow circles, you already have these memory cells present, so you're actually just triggering your second immune response, your second exposure response. So you can really quickly make plasma and more memory cells and a ton of antibodies so you don't even feel sick. So we are all anticipating a vaccine for COVID-19. And the reason this is so critical is because once there's the vaccine available, it will be dispensed to everyone, probably prioritize people who are over 65 or have respiratory conditions, diabetes, right? Other health issues that make them more susceptible. But once this vaccine is available, what this vaccine will be parts of the coronavirus that will trigger our bodies to conduct a primary response against the coronavirus. And so that if we're actually encounter it, we won't get sick because our body already has antibodies and memory cells to fight it. And so it's essential that people get vaccinated quickly because that will prevent this virus from getting people very sick, especially those that are elderly and very vulnerable. And if you have the vaccine, your immune system attacks the virus so quickly that you're not contagious. It takes a long time to make a vaccine because they have to test to see if the parts that they put in it really don't get you sick and if there aren't any other side effects. So it has to go through a lot of testing, but they're anticipating having it in the beginning of 2021. And so there has been some talk that those that are very susceptible, the elderly, probably won't be able to be back in society completely until the beginning of 2021. If you're listening to this after that, well, you'll know how it actually came down. In addition, some countries, they don't have the vaccine, just as we don't have the vaccine, but they've been already able to test if people have antibodies in their blood against the coronavirus. So why is this helpful? Well, if you have antibodies in your body, that means you have been exposed. And maybe you didn't even know it, because they say some people don't even know they've been exposed. Maybe they just thought it was a little cold or one day of a fever. But if your body has antibodies against the coronavirus, it means you've already had that primary exposure, and it means you have immunity. So you would be someone that would be safe to go back into society because you're not contagious and you're not going to get sick. So just to summarize what I said, if you have the antibody, you have immunity, and you can't transmit the virus. At least that's what they think. And if you are exposed, you will not get ill. So everything I've discussed is part of active immunity because your immune system is activated. Now I'm going to spend a little time discussing passive immunity. So passive immunity refers to a type of immunity in which you have antibodies against a certain virus or bacteria, but it was not your own immune system that produced those antibodies. So I'm going to give you a couple examples that I think will help you understand this. This picture here on the left shows a woman who is pregnant. Well, her fetus inside of her uterus, her fetus's immune system is not developed. So that fetus isn't even making B cells yet and T cells. So its adaptive immune system is not functioning very well. But the fetus is sharing blood with the mother. So when this mother is exposed to a virus or a bacteria, and her B lymphocytes are activated and make antibodies, those antibodies are not only flowing around the mother's body to help fight the bacteria or viruses, but also in the fetus's body. So in this case, the fetus would be receiving passive immunity. Passive, think of it because the fetus isn't actively doing anything to make the antibodies. The fetus is just passively getting it from the mother. Another example of this is the picture on the right, when babies nurse from the mother. Antibodies that the mother's adaptive immune system produces pass through the breast milk, and the baby consumes those antibodies and filter in their blood and help the baby fight against pathogens. This again is important because babies' immune systems are not very well adapted or mature when they are born. So this is one of the ways that helps keep babies healthy when they're little until they themselves can mature their immune system. Now I have a question that I want you to think about. I like this question. Okay, it may be on your future assessment, hint, hint. So it says the immune system is capable of mounting specific responses to particular microorganisms because. So what I'm saying here is your immune system can mount a response and produce antibodies against almost every pathogen, which is a microorganism like virus or bacteria that exists. How is it able to do such specific work against anything, even organisms that haven't even evolved yet? Okay, that's what I'm asking. So A, Stem cells are able to change their antigen specificity as required to fight infection. B, lymphocytes are able to change their antigen specificity required to fight infection. So lymphocytes are able to change, all right? So is that correct? C, stem cells determine which type of B and T cells to make. D, the body contains an enormous diversity of lymphocytes, each with a specific kind of antigen receptor. Or E, stem cells make different antigen receptors depending on the invading microorganism. So the only one that's correct there is D. And the key point I want to make by this question is that the enormous diversity, remember B cells or B lymphocytes, exists in your body. So your body will continuously make thousands and thousands of different types of B cells with different receptors on them. And the reason it makes such an enormous diversity is just in case whatever microorganism you come into contact, it will have one that fits, that shape fits that antigen on that microorganism, and it will be able to produce antibodies and memory cells specific to that invader. Okay, so the other questions, the other options where it says, like B, lymphocytes are able to change their antigen specificity as required. No, it's not that they change it as required. The diversity is already there. The invader just selects the one that fits, and then your body makes that one proliferate, divide. All right, I hope that made sense, and that finishes our last lecture for the immune system.